Hello, my name is Andre, and this is episode 12 of Chronicles of Reality. And in this episode, I am going to cover what I'm going to call my astral body and astral clothing. And this is going to be separate from the regular astral bodies that I just mentioned in the previous episode. So in this one, I'm going to cover the astral body and astral clothing. So I've described before that entities will connect to my body and manipulate it in certain ways. And one of the main ways that they were manipulated was the use of an astral body, which in this case is not the metaphysical body, but it's going to be it's another layer that's literally over our main layer of body, or my main layer of body. So not specifically skin type or anything like that. It's more like a form of a body that's sort of somewhat different. And I guess I'll explain it this way. So I discovered that with all these different movements that are being made and different actions and the interaction with different astral figures around my apartment and around other places, I found that I'd act in a different way. But not just act in a different way, I'd posture myself in a different way. And on top of that, my body would feel different. I said before that my body would feel scrunched, sometimes like pressed right now. Like right now, my body is pressed. But the difference is not completely pressed on just the outside. It's more compressed on the front and the back. So my body is not as thick as it really should be at this moment. And because it is being held, or it's being pressed and held in that position. but but in this case, as far as my history goes, this astral body for myself, what was discovered by further analyzing what was happening to me and unlocking a layer of perception that allowed me to purely feel what they were doing and how what they were doing and what that sort of related to. So I knew that muscles were being affected. I knew that my body could be crushed. I knew that my body could actually be pulled out at sometimes. Not always, but it did happen. And then there are these moments where my body felt like it was shifting form. So not just the muscles and everything were affected. So I felt like let's say I were to think of a particular type of body, and that's gonna be, it could be male or female, and if I'm interacting with the right entity, then that entity will create an astral layer that I began to finally see that matched what I was thinking and what I was feeling around my body. So if I decided to think of my body as a thicker body than as I have now, then my body would sort of spread to a degree that would feel like it was bigger. But there's multiple manipulation going on, so it's not just the muscles, but it's also the individual limbs and everything that are going on. So so these astral this astral body that I had, I found is just right over the body, but it can extend over the body to a further degree. It makes me think of a video game called Second Life, and in this video game, when you start the game, you have a base layer of You have a base layer of your avatar. But down the line, as this game develops, you can use what we'll say, what we'll call our mesh avatars. That's what they call them. There's another era before that I'm missing, but there's mesh. So there's mesh bodies, and those mesh bodies were over the regular avatar body that you had. So you would have to make your regular body invisible, but and then put the mesh body over it. However, even though the mesh body or the regular avatar body is invisible, the mesh shape would sort of depend to some degree on what your actual body looked like. And so you had to have maybe a certain size and a certain shape in order to make yourself look how you wanted when you had the mesh body on. So there would be so just picture the avatar body as my regular body that's being manipulated, and instead of being invisible, it's still there. It's still there for me. But then there's that overlay or the mesh body, which I'm gonna say is the astral body that's over me. That's over my body, and I can feel that. I can feel it. I was able to feel it. I was able to sense it around me. And then I learned that with this astral body, they were able to make an extension of my body to make it feel like it was different. And what the crazy part is that it did feel very realistic. And I would actually let's say for instance, now I hate to say this, but this was part of my reality, so I'm going to say this. If let's say if I were to think of a female body, for instance, because remember I can't. As far as this goes at this time of discovery, I can't really control what's being made. So I can just be watching a movie, and I let's say I watch a movie and I see, I don't know, Jennifer Lawrence, and let's say I just see Jennifer Lawrence. No, I'm not thinking of anything specifically about Jennifer at all. But because I see her, and maybe I just thought in my head, hey, that's Jennifer Lawrence. I like watching the Hunger Games or Silver Linings, whatever she may be in. But then these entities would react in a manner that would make my body look like Jennifer Lawrence's body to some degree, as far as their interpretation was. Uh, so it would, and we're talking like the muscles would look that way, the whole entire body, or sort of, well, the muscles would feel that way, and the entire body would sort of look that way when things would happen. I'll explain how I can see that, or how I was able to see that in a moment. But before I get there, we will say that these astral bodies felt so real. So for me, even if it was maybe a skinnier person like Jennifer Lawrence, I mean at that time anyway. I mean the body that you're seeing right now is much skinnier than the body that I had during that time period. So it was much. I was heavier. I was thicker. And my body was a little bit broader. I'm looking at my shoulders now, and they just don't really match up to how they used to be at that time. But if I were to think of Jennifer Lawrence and have this body, or think of maybe a thicker body than my body, then this astral body would create this form. My base body would be affected, and it may not always be comfortable because sometimes, like I said, my torso is being compressed, or my arms are being manipulated, but the actual body itself feels different. And over time, at some point I was able to feel what that body was like. So, example, I'd be able to feel. Let's say if I thought of Dwayne the Rock Johnson, for example, a body that's nowhere near mine. But let's say I did think of that, or the entities decided to make my body look that way, then they can make me feel like I'm more buff than I am, and have a bigger body, and able to move around, and and it wasn't just moving around. It was like with maybe each step and each movement, I'm able to feel the astral body as if it were an actual body. So when you walk around, you're if you, especially let's say if you're somewhat heavier or anything like that, and even if you are not, you can feel the let's say the jiggling or vibrations and movement of your body as you are moving around. And it was the same way when it came to these different bodies, and at time, and honestly, more than not, if I focus on a female body for whatever reason, I they would put an overlay of a female type body over my body, and one of the most frustrating things uh, was that I couldn't really remove that that body at all. So I had to then go around walking around like I feel like I have a female shaped body, and like I can feel the astral body as if it were a real body. So I can feel the muscles and the skin move around. I can feel the movement, the movement or the vibration or like the twitch or jiggle of different parts of my body, being the let's say the posterior or even the chest. So when I say female, it wasn't as if they just made a female body and left it at that. They would then use a female, including the chest and everything, as far as that would feel. So I'd be walking around and I would feel like my chest was moving in the same manner that a female chest would move, if that makes sense, without me getting into too much detail for the sake of this video. So yeah, and so I don't know what that feels like for women at all. I just know that for me, it felt like it was quite realistic, and that was sort of frustrating to some degree. Then, well, before I get there, yeah, depending on which astral figure I interacted with or entity I interacted with, then my body would be shaped in a different way and would change in a different way. In the course of me walking through my apartment, my body could change 3 or 4 times just from me walking from my balcony to my kitchen, or from my bedroom to my kitchen. But without those, it could just be the kitchen by itself isolated or the balcony by itself isolated. But if I did walk through those areas, I would have my body shift and change form as I'm walking throughout the area. Sometimes a particular form would last like all day. Other times they would just shift depending on who was interacting with my body. So that was sort of a thing that I had to get used to before I was able to manipulate or that body down the line. But before I even get to that part later on in the series, I'm gonna get to astral clothing, and astral clothing in this case. In this case was very particular. Each entity would add some sort of astral type clothing over either the astral body or my regular body because my astral body wasn't always there. Sometimes it was just my regular body, and I felt astral clothing over my body, and I can feel it as if it's real. Sometimes it was skin tight, other times it'll be some loose. Excuse me. Other times it'll be more loose than it was, especially with the astral body layer. So, example. And so what was happening is that I was going to I was going to let's say I was going to work, and throughout my day my body I would find might change. Or if I were to put on something particular, by the end of the day they would change what that looked like. So let's say I put on a regular shirt. So let's say I put on this particular shirt. And when I worked at this grocery store, I I would wear an apron. Now, when I got home, or by the time I got home, they would have turned that apron into some sort of astral piece of clothing. But it wouldn't always be an apron. It might be a regular apron, or it might turn into what maybe look like a let's say maybe if not an apron, maybe what looks to be like a dress or something like that. You know, and I'm nowhere near a person who would wear a dress. Understand that I'm not that person at all. So it's sort of frustrating to see and experience this sort of thing, to have something look like that I'm wearing a dress in some cases. But that wasn't always the case. It could be either a dress. It could be me putting on a vest, which I love to wear. You've seen me wear a vest so far in my videos, and you'll see me wear those same vests in the future. But let's say I wore a vest, and at the end of the day, that vest might be a trench coat for whatever reason, or a shirt that I was wearing might look kind of like a shirt that I had before, but the style might be a little bit different from what it was before. And I learned that what was happening is that they were these entities were using their sort of frequencies to attach to me, and then manifesting these different clothing by overlaying my body, and then attaching to like the clothing, or overlaying my, let's say it could overlay my body, or it could attach to the clothing first and then attach to my body, like skin tight, kind of to a degree. So I felt these for the longest time, and I had a good idea of what they looked like and everything. And then down the line, I saw that I saw in the mirror one day. There was one day I came home from work, took a shower, got out of the shower. I can still feel the astral body and metaphysical astral clothing. When I got out of the shower, I looked in the mirror. I get ready. I get ready. I have eczema, so I put lotion on. Not lotion, but I put Vaseline on. For the most part, that's the main thing that I use right now, anyway. And during that time, I remember sitting and putting on lotion and everything. And my thing was that I would like to sort of take showers in the dark. It wouldn't have to be 100% darkness, but if it was dark to some degree, I love doing so. It was sort of like a Zen type moment that I developed over time. So I would take these showers in the dark to sort of relax myself after a long day at my two jobs. And the thing that I found is that I could I could see my figure, especially once my eyes got used to the darkness to some degree, or if there was a light source underneath the door that was illuminating the bathroom slightly. But I began to then see that these I began to see that. Excuse me. I'm having something. There's something messing. There's an entity right now messing with my lungs to a degree that I will explain a little bit later. But I'm focusing as much as I can. So I found that there's just this astral clothing all over my body that look like they're in different forms. So I learned that each of the entities that interacted with my body, by the end of the day, they would have created some sort of, I will say, look for me, or related to the second life, avatar look, because every look had seemed to have some sort of type of theme to them. So so the so yeah the clothing was something that was present for a long time. It lasted for quite a long time, and well into what I will talk about in the next episode or two. But yes, that was a weird experience for me to go through. But for right now, I will end that episode and get into another experience involving the mirrors, or my mirrors, or my mirror in my apartment, and mirrors in general that I came across over time. So that is it for now. Thank you for listening to my my story, and to those who have been here for the longest time, thank you again. Please like and subscribe, and leave comments, and ask whatever questions that you will. I will answer whatever questions that I can, and if I don't answer those questions, look out for those questions down the line, because I will use those in later videos. So that is it for now. Thank you for everything. Until next time.